Welcome, card friends. Today we're breaking down how to start or restart your card collecting journey. Whether you're coming back after 20 years or just getting curious, we've got tips, supplies, and terms to help you hit the ground running. Let's get into it. All right, welcome back, card friends. Thank you all so much again for being here. We are your hosts. I'm Kev.
And I'm Joe. How's it going?
And again, if you're new here, just a quick recap. Joe and I are both lifelong friends, both tech guys by day, both dads, and of course, both diehard collectors and both card friends. And we started this show together for the casual collector, right? We're not influencers. We're not these loud voices. We're not hype guys, right? We're not here to talk just card prices. We're really here just to have real card conversations. Think of us as like catching up with a friend about cards and the hobby, sitting on your couch at home, catching up, quick phone call between card friends, right? Just two friends who just love collecting. And again, you guys are part of the card friend community. And we say it all the time. We're all card friends here. So feel free to hit us up on socials. DMs. We'd love talking to you guys. Reach out anytime. Again, we're all card friends here. So this episode, we're going to do things a little different, right? We wanted to talk a little about, we did a segment a little bit back and we got some love for it called Card Friend Fundamentals. And for this episode, we really wanted to tailor it to focus it on people getting back into the hobby or new people trying to join the hobby, right? And the whole idea is that we want to give some just fundamental tips, talk about, why people return to the hobby, talk about starter kit, what you actually need to get going with the hobby, talk about some beginner terms, as well as just some extreme new questions. And plus, we definitely want to talk about the mistakes that we learned early on, because I don't know about you, Joe, but I definitely made a lot of mistakes early on that I think could share that could help people begin or return to their collecting journey.
Same, man, same. And they're simple mistakes to avoid, pitfalls to avoid.
Exactly right. So if you're a card friend that is already back into it, and we think you could probably pick up or learn a thing or two, but if you know someone that's just getting started or thinking about getting back into it, share this with them, because this could be a great starting guide for them. We'll kick things off by talking about why people return to the hobby in the first place, right? Joe, what are some of the reasons that you think that people get back into the hobby?
I mean, there's nothing like nostalgia, but to me, I think that's it. Then there's people on the other side of the fence who might be in it for the money and for the investment side of it. So I think it appeals to a wide group of people, and everybody's got their own little unique story.
No doubt, man. No doubt, right? Nostalgia is definitely a big driver for a lot, right? Makes you feel like a kid again. I think that's one of the big drivers. I see a lot of just general sports fans getting into it, right? Especially with people or card shops rather popping up in and around stadiums, or just like I see even videos on socials where people are like ripping card packs courtside in an NBA game, or they're at an NFL game, they pop into a card vaults like I see at Foxborough Stadium for the Patriots, right? Ripping some packs there. You're totally right about the investor angle. People see it as a little bit of a side hustle, right? And they're definitely, because it's kind of like the stock market for sports in some ways, right? So flippers can get in, you can buy people low, and if they have a great season, maybe they break a few records, maybe they think someone's going to be the GOAT down the road, definitely make some money by buying, holding, and flipping at the right time. So definitely can be a little bit of a side hustle or a money-making machine for some folks. I think another one is sharing the hobby with kids and family members, right, that are getting back into it. If you have some younger folks in your family, or you have kids that are getting into whether it be trading cards or sports cards, I think sharing the hobby with your kids or younger family members is always a blast. I did it. Definitely love to do it with my nephews. Definitely love to do it with my kids for sure. We have a blast doing it on the Pokemon scene.
Yeah, man. It just builds a special type of bond, right? I did the same thing, trying to teach a little guy how to rip a pack open. He just runs around with it and tries to eat it, but he'll learn one day. But yeah, no, I mean, to be able to sit down, like you said, that video with Mike Trout and his kid, when he like pulled his own card, it was Bowman Auto, Mike Trout rookie, and it was Mike Trout and his kid opening it together.
No way. That's an awesome moment.
Yeah, I think Mike Trout geeked out a little bit more than the kid, but moments like that you can build through the hobby.
Yeah, me and my daughter were opening up some Lorcana cards, the Disney cards. We pulled Elsa, we pulled Cinderella, like hollows, and she went nuts. It was again, special moment. That's awesome. We actually have them displayed in her room, and she thinks it's like a little piece of art, which is which is awesome.
It is.
There's also just accidental rediscovery, which I love. I was talking to a buddy. He was just like, his parents were like moving or cleaning out their basement, and they found his old cards, and he's like, "Whoa!" And he found a bunch of like LeBron cards, Kobe's, Pokemon cards. Like, there's no better like feeling of like when you just accidentally rediscover the hobby, and you can go find it all over the place now because it's so popular. And I think when people accidentally get back into it that way, I think is a fun way to get back into it. But at the end of the day, I think it's really just a fun way to escape, a creative outlet, a way to extend your sports fandom, right? There's no right or wrong way to collect, but it's a really fun hobby. So I highly recommend people get back into it.
I was a pandemic baby. It just came from watching YouTube videos of Pac-Man opening, running breaks, and for a while, just so confused why people would want to just pay someone else to open their cards for them and then ship them to them. I dipped my toe in the water. I did it a couple times. It was like a rush waiting for the cards to come in the mail. I popped into like a LCS and was super intimidated. I think I got like laughed out of the store because went in there thinking I was going to buy a bunch of like cool packs and stuff. And then I found these subscription box things. So I was big into those for a while early on, right after the pandemic opened up and prices normalized a little bit. I was all in.
You dragged me back in. You and our buddy John, right? I remember we went to the Celtics game together. Classic night before Thanksgiving, high school get back together. I saw you had a card with you. I posted that on social. John Morant Marvel's card. I was like, Joe, what are you doing bringing cards to a card game? And I was like, hey, John, do you believe this guy's bringing cards to a card game? Kind of like making fun of you guys. And John's like, yep, I can. And he pulled out his cards, and I was like, what? Like, you guys are both collecting cards? And I was like, no way. You guys were like, oh yeah, no, it's big, it's back. Like, it's very popular online. And I jumped right back in. I was like, called mom up, Linda on the ride home, and I was like, hey, you get my old cards? She's like, I'll bring them over in the morning. From there, after I dug up my old collection, I went crazy in the stores like you. I joined breaks online like you said, right? Went crazy with the retail product, probably a little too crazy. Definitely something I recommend against, but hey, I was in the thick of it.
You get tunnel vision and it's fun. And then you spend the time organizing it.
So it's actually a good point, like organization. What are some of your like starter kit must-haves? Like, what do you need to get back and to help organize and streamline your collection?
Box, just the storage stuff, really. I mean, what else do you need, Kev? For me, that's what comes to mind.
Yeah, so you can get those boxes online, BCW, and they're big boxes. They come in all different sizes, right? So if you have a ton of cards, you can get these giant boxes. You can get, just if you have a couple, you can get the size of like a shoebox, right? So those boxes definitely come and help just to store all the cards in, especially while you're sorting through them, because those things, base cards and the cards you get in packs, can stack up really quickly, and they can make a mess of your kitchen, table, desk, office, wherever you're storing them very, very quickly.
Yeah.
But yeah, top loaders and those penny sleeves, must haves. Got to get those. Binders. I like binders, right? If you're starting a personal collection, get one of those binders. They come in all various different sizes, shapes, colors, right? Branding. So definitely binders definitely help. But yeah, I mean, like microfiber cloths to clean off maybe the cards or something like that. Yeah, you don't need much to get going, right? But if you do pull an amazing hit, you might want to have a couple one touches. There's these like glass plastic cases, because if you pulled like an autograph card or an oversized card, the last thing you want to do is just have it like sitting out there in the wind with some potential for damage to come into play. So having a couple, they're called one touches. They come in all different sizes as well. So you can find those online. But all this stuff is relatively cheap. You start getting more and more into the hobby, just having those supplies on standby can definitely help you out get going. And all this stuff is so cheap, right? And the next thing you'll know, probably you're asking yourself, is where do I buy cards? And you'll have no shortage of options there, right? So you'll hear things like LCS, which is a local card shop. You can pop on Google, look up where your local card shops are. They're usually pretty plentiful. If they're not, you can go to the big box retail stores, companies like Walmart, Target, CVS, Walgreens, those little pharmacy shops. They tend to carry cards in various capacities. And then there's the online marketplaces, and that's when things get a little dicey. So you got to be careful. Make sure you're going into a reputable place that clearly has been selling cards, reviews, and validation, right? But I mean, even some of the bigger places like Amazon, right? Don't forget, those are like individual sellers. So sometimes there are some stories where scams can happen. So make sure you're looking at reviews. Make sure you're making sure that it's a valid authentic source that you're getting it from, which is why I like to buy it from local card shops as well as some of the big box stores, because you know that it's being delivered with some level of authenticity. And do your best to do your research and try to avoid scams that are out there, because there's no shortage of those online.
I'm with you, Kev. I much rather prefer local card shop, supporting local business for one, and two, you get to like walk out of there with it, right?
And especially if you find a product you like, I think it's important also to figure out what the MSRP is, right? So at least you're working with some like understanding of how much it should cost and what the markup is. Because a lot of times when you go on the Amazon, Walmart's, eBay's, these third-party marketplaces, they're going to be marked up. And, are you paying 50% more? Are you paying 100%? Are you paying 1,000% more, right? You should have some like fundamental understanding of what the MSRP is, and then know the markup that you're paying, because whether it be an LCS or other online marketplaces, there tends to be markups that you're going to incur. Sometimes you want to pay that, sometimes you don't for the convenience. So just having understanding of that can help you save some money in the long run.
Perfect example is, I shouldn't say this out loud, but I think $100 for like a single pack of cards at one point.
And you didn't know any better, right? And that happens a lot. That happens to a lot of people. Sticker shock is definitely a real thing, like we've said before.
In hindsight, not a wise decision.
Let's talk about the difference between these terms like blasters, hobbies, singles, megas.
It took me so long to figure all this stuff out.
So let's talk about some of the common ones, right? I'll start, right? So you got value packs, which is those like plastic value packs, usually 15 to 30 cards that are hanging in most stores. You got blaster boxes, which are small, probably the entry point to the hobby of boxes. It's just usually anywhere from like 20 to 40 cards, small back, usually like 4 to 6 packs in them. Most products have these. As you move up, megas, very similar product line, just give you more. And these usually have exclusives, so exclusive colors within these. And they'll say it right on the box, so just look out for it. So if you wanted, let's say, a color match of your favorite team, and the exclusive might be in a blaster or a mega, right? So blasters and megas are just the entry level product to the hobby. And blasters will have a small amount, whereas megas will have a little more amount. And that's just retail product, and you're limited in what you can actually pull from those. But there can be some really good stuff in those things as well.
The megas, yeah, usually they'll have like guaranteed memorabilia or maybe autograph. By memorabilia, I mean either a jersey or a piece of someone's bat. To your example, Kev, about the different colored.
Exactly. So if you like color, you want a color match, you like a certain type of variant or parallel, as they call them, colors, definitely look for those boxes. But again, blasters, megas, these are the entry level retail product. And they usually go for what, like $20 to $100, I would say, would range from somewhere in that vicinity. And, all the brands, all the sets they have this product usually available for you. And then as you move up the chain, you start to move into more expensive product. And you're not going to find these at the big box stores. They'll be at the LCSs and they'll be online. But you can move into hobby boxes. That's when it gets really expensive. And in these boxes, you are guaranteed hits. And these hits can be memorabilia cards. They can be autographs. They can be a lot of cool stuff in these. And you get increased chances for some of the shorter prints, which is other more rare cards and number cards that are out there, the serialized cards where you see like numbers on the actual cards. So as you move up, they're going to cost a lot more, but the likelihood of you getting better stuff goes up as well. So it's a little bit of a trade-off there. With the more money you spend, the better stuff that you can get.
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing like the adrenaline rush of getting a hit out of a retail product. But if you want to be predictable in what you're going to be spending your money on, then a hobby box might be the way to go for you.
And then there's the option, and I did not do this when I first started out, is singles. Like you can and people have to really think about this. I love opening packs. And I always say, if you love opening packs, if you enjoy the thrill of just cracking a pack, brings you the nostalgia, like we talked about, why you're getting back into it, definitely open packs. I don't want to slow you down. I do it all the time. I love it and I enjoy it, right?
People always say that all the time. I'm like, I'll never give up opening packs.
Yeah. But if you want to get a single card, like for example, I'm a Boston fan. I want a Jason Tatum special card. Should I go to the store and spend, $500 on a hobby box because I want a Jason Tatum specific card? The odds of you getting that specific card you want is far lower. And what you could do is just go online and look up that Jason Tatum card, and it might be available for like 20, 30, 40 bucks for you, right? So going into buying a box with the expectation of that you're going to get a card that you want, not the right idea. Don't do that.
That's so wise. Yeah. And I like did the math on that sometimes on the couple times when I've done that where I could have just like I was chasing the little mellow prism for so long. I could have just bought one online. Now they're like you get a dime a dozen, but back then buying the product versus just buying it online.
Yeah, so a good way to save money, it really is. Yeah, buy singles. And that's not, we didn't invent this advice. It's very common advice. You'll hear this all the place.
Everyone's going to tell it to you. Yeah.
But willpower is the thing. And there's an emotional side to this hobby, as we talked about. And sometimes it's just fun to open up some packs and get some hits, right? So if you enjoy that, you enjoy the entertainment of it, definitely do that. Don't want to rain on your parade on that front. But if your goal is just to personally collect a specific player, you want someone very specific, or you want a certain trading card, right? Just buy it. It usually ends up being cheaper for you.
It'll save you time and money in the long run for sure.
Yeah. Some other good ways to save money. You pop in yard sales. You can pop into local card shops and check the singles boxes. Card shows, most of the time, will have this box out on their tables that you can dig through called dollar boxes. You could go and say, hey, you know what? I'm going to go to a card show. I'm going to spend $50. And for $50, you could find, if you want to spend the time, some pretty solid cards in those dollar boxes that are solid. And I promise you, if you take $50, go to a card show, dig through all the dollar boxes, those 50 cards that you'd have versus the 50 cards that you would spend on just a random blaster box that you don't really even know the product or know what you're trying to get out of it, you'll get more value out of just spending the time at a card show in the dollar boxes.
It's a tough pill to swallow, but he's right.
I know. Hey, I am good at telling the advice. I am not the greatest at following my own. that I promise you, because I have a closet full of sealed boxes that I plan on opening even just this afternoon for fun. So I'll give the advice. Not great at following it by any stretch of the imagination.
We just want to make sure you guys are aware that these alternatives are out there.
Exactly. So if you were starting today and you had $100, what are you spending it on? What are you doing?
If I was starting today and I knew everything that I know today,
and you know everything you know today, yeah, like what would you spend your $100 on?
I would probably go on to eBay and find Tatum color match PSA 10. So a green mosaic or prism. PSA 10 of a rookie, definitely not gonna be in the budget for 100, but that's what I would use my $100 on.
I like it. NBA playoffs kicking in full gear.
Yeah.
Celtics get their second championship. I like it. So if I were starting today and I had $100, this is just me personally, I'd go to my local retailers and I'd spend $50 on the best NFL pack I could find, probably Prism, something like that. Prism, because
Really?
I love the rookie class this year. I don't care if I pull a Caleb Williams, Drake May, Jaden Daniels, right? So
JJ.
and Penix, right? The rookie class this year is so deep. So I'm buying some NFL product. Then I'm going to take that second 50. I'm going to find a local card show near me, like I said, and I'm going to take that $50 and I'm going to either buy some pieces that I'm personally collecting. If I see like a $20 or $30 card, and probably save the extra 20 to dig through some dollar boxes and pick up some cool singles that are kicking around a card show. And that's such an easy way to get started if you only had $100.
Yeah, man. There's so many like sweet looking cards that you can get of players that aren't rookies, like the same parallel. So I like that. You get more. So it's like polar opposite. I get one thing and you get 50 plus things.
There's no right or wrong way to do this, right? It's figure out what you like, budget, and spend the money on what you like. For sure. That's simple advice. We throw around a lot of terms, right? And we thought it'd be helpful just to give you maybe like a starting base knowledge.
A little cheat sheet.
Yeah, even some terms that we've been talking about up until this point, right? A little bit of a cheat sheet to get you going about just some beginner hobby terms, right? The card friends glossary, if you will. So one of the things we say all the time is PC. And, I've heard people be like, what are you talking about, your personal computer? And it's like, no, this is a personal collection. This is what you're personally collecting. And this is something that people typically do. If you're collecting, 1, 2, 3, 5 people, or chasing certain characters and trading card games, like for me, for example, I personally collect Brady, LeBron James, Paul Pierce, Ken Griffey, SGA, right? So I just love personally collecting players, and they're my personal collection who I focus on collecting.
So let me use it in a sentence for the people out there.
Yeah, I think that'll help.
I PC Jason Tatum, I PC Roman Anthony, so on and so forth, right? So in my PC, I have a lot of Jason Tatum, I have a lot of Roman Anthony, I PC the Red Sox, I PC the Celtics.
Yeah, you can use teams as well. Yeah, I love that.
Yep.
Another term that we've been talking about a lot is breaking and breaks. And
Mm-hmm.
I'll define it and you use it in a sentence like that. I like that format a lot. So a car break, right? This is when we talked about it earlier. Hobby boxes and bigger boxes, sometimes they're expensive, right? And sometimes people don't want to buy a whole box themselves and take on all those cards, but instead pay for maybe a team they want or get into get assigned a random team, or maybe they get after a random player, right? And there's plenty of options for breaks, but essentially what happens is you buy yourself into a fraction of that box, you save some money. So for example, if there's 32 teams in the NFL, you can pay 30 some odd bucks to get into a break of an expensive hobby box. Say it was like $1,000, right? For example, and you get assigned a team or a player or whatever the format may be. And then, you don't get all the cards, but you get assigned that certain team or that certain player. So it's a cheaper entry point to get the bigger hits. And this is all done online. You watch it virtually and they'll ship it to you after the fact. And there's, again, no shortages of these on all the various different platforms that exist, from Instagram to whatnot and all the other socials that allow live streaming platforms to sell and stream breaks.
There's some really good people out there too, running some good break communities. So again, to use it in a sentence, I joined a break last night and I got skunked, Kev.
What's skunked mean?
It means I didn't get anything. I won't be getting any mail.
We mentioned this a lot. PSA, Beckett, BSG, SGC, and these are all graded cards. So we'll talk a little bit about raw versus graded, right? Raw means exactly what it sounds. It's kind of self-explanatory. It's the card in the wild, raw. It doesn't have any casing on it. It's just the card that pulled pack fresh from a card packs or box that you've opened. And what you have the ability to do is send the card into a professional grading service, bundle up, package up the cards, you send it in, and they send it back to you with a grade in a plastic encasing. And what this does is, if it comes back, usually it's on a scale of a 1 to a 10, the 10 being the highest, 1 being the lowest. But if you send in a great card, if you are able to get a 10, the value goes up in some cases exponentially, right? So no matter what the card is, it just increases the rarity of the card, and it allows people to know that it's not a fake card. And these are very reputable services that can help boost the values of your cards, plus protect them.
I think let's talk a little bit about what makes a 10. This is another tip just for the people. Like, you need to train the eye to be able to look for surface dents or scratches. Like, that's going to separate a 10 from a 6, for example. It's like a simple little scratch on the surface of the card. Yeah, so example. So this is a Tim Duncan raw card, right? Tim Duncan, 1997. Yeah, so this is a Tim Duncan rookie. I bought it raw, but it's in a one type. If I wanted to pack that up and ship it off to a grading service like a PSA, they would send it back to me with a grade in a in-case thing. You can't open this either. So the card is secured in here and it's waterproof.
Yeah, there's a couple different companies out there. PSA is probably the most popular one. So if you see the PSA logo on the cards, that tends to be the most common one. Tends to fetch the highest price.
Everyone's most familiar with, I think, and probably feels most comfortable with, is probably the easiest. I think that's probably, it's like almost like what the market is based on. I feel like the price of a PSA 10 or a BGS 95. There's a bunch of like smaller ones too, but it depends. If you're just looking to protect the card, you don't have to consider PSA. You're going to pay top dollar to ship that thing. You're big on it. Like, I've yet to submit anything, actually, believe it or not, myself personally.
Yeah, I love just protect. I'm a little nervous about it. Sometimes it can be a little nerve wracking. Maybe we'll do a full dedicated episode on grading and how to go about doing that. I think that helps people. But bonus term, it's a slab, right? The thing that you were showing up and how it doesn't break. When you hear the word slab, it's like that protective encasing that goes over the card.
Yeah, it's slabbed. It's in a slab.
Another protective word or term that you'll hear is wax. The term wax, and what that simply means, it's the wax packaging that goes around sealed product in case. Oftentimes that's the branding and logo on it, but when you hear about wax, it just means sealed card products or boxes.
Went to this yard sale the other day and they had a bunch of sealed wax.
I'm gonna rip some wax later on.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, that term tripped me up for a while because I'm like, there's no wax on any of these things anywhere. But I guess back in the day too, they did more use more wax, I think. And those wax packs too. You've heard that, right? Like the little baseball foldy ones with the gum. They call
I've seen
those, I
those
think, wax packs.
wax packs. Yeah.
Tongue
So,
twister.
and then there's not to be confused. Well, there's also the junk wax era, when that basically refers to cards that were printed in the late 80s to 90s. And these cards were massively overprinted, meaning there's just so many of them flooding the market, and that decreases the rarity. And this is before like the numbered cards, all the different parallels that you can get, and some of like the special auto cards and memorabilia cards, right? So these are just basic cards in that era that were printed so much, and there's just so many of them out there, and simple supply and demand, because there's so many, the prices are low. So they call it the junk wax era, because there's just so many of them.
And the cardstock quality is not as good as it is now.
True.
It's a lot more cardboardy.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of that.
Yeah. No, it's got that cool little old school feel visually, aesthetically. But yeah,
I love it. I love the old school like Topps baseball where they would use like the black background with the neon colors.
And as we think about the cards themselves, right? One thing that you hear all the time is comps. And we don't, like I said, we don't really dip into the pricing, but these are just common terms. But comps, and this just means comparable sales to cards that have happened. So you can actually go on eBay, search the card that you're looking for, trying to buy, and then filter by sold. And when you do that, you can look at the latest sold. And if you look at the past 10, you can get an idea of a comp and a comparable card that's recently sold. And that gives you just a better idea of a recent price transaction, whether you're at a card show, negotiating with a friend, trying to make a trade, trying to buy it online yourself. It's always good to look at what it last sold for. So that way, you're paying around fair market value, roughly.
Yeah, and you should be doing comps on just about everything. It might be more familiar in your life in another area and you don't even know it. As a buyer and a seller, you're looking at the comps a little differently. But if Kevin and I were looking to make a trade or a deal and he had a card that the comps say is worth around $10, right? And then I'm thinking, oh, all right, that seems pretty fair. It's about being fair. So you come to a average sale price, and you really can't argue that because it's the comps. It's what other people have paid. So you should feel confident in investing your money in X product at X comp, right? So to use it in a sentence, before I buy anything, I make sure to check the comps.
And as we think about the cards themselves, as you're looking up your comps, there's also all different types of cards out there. And some terms that you'll hear are parallels. So what parallels are, they're just a different version of the base card or a variation of the base cards that exist. And they can be colored, they can be foiled, they can be other various, just different types of inserts or markings, numbered, right? So when you're talking about parallels, it's a special variation of that card, and usually they're a little bit more rare, and usually they'll cost a little bit more. So question that we very commonly get. So when you think about parallels, when you hear that term, that's what that means. There's also another term called autos, which that's autograph, pretty simple. Another term called memorabilia, and that just means that there's a piece of memorabilia built into the card, whether it be a jersey, a glove, a cleat, a piece of a bat, piece of a ball, right? Something that was sometimes game used, but sometimes not. And it does denote that usually on the back of the card. RPA, which is a rookie patch auto, which kind of combines a lot of these terms that we've been talking about, which means it's a rookie card. It's the player's first appearance card. The patch card, meaning there's a patch of a jersey on it, plus an autograph. It's a very common term, RPA, that's used. And these are just all variations of cards that tend to be worth a little bit more to a collector.
And not to confuse the community, but we just said that you have memorabilia cards that have pieces of the jersey. That piece of the jersey is also referred to as a patch. Patch swatch you might hear, or a napkin people might say, if it's just a white piece of cloth from a jersey. This happens to be a white jersey. But I wanted to circle back on the parallel thing real quick, Kev. People might also hear the term rainbow thrown around when Kevin said that parallels include different color variants. So you have blue, orange, green, pink, black, gold. To complete a rainbow set on an individual is you get basically the whole rainbow color parallels. All the different color parallels make up the rainbow set.
And there's so many of them these days that can be very tough to complete, but definitely something that people do. And I think it's very impressive when people do actually complete those collections. Another fun little thing you can do in the hobby. So for some takeaways for people to take home with, let's talk about some mistakes we made early on. And I've made a lot of them. I made a ton, but I think hopefully if you guys can maybe
No,
learn from some of our mistakes. So we talked about it earlier, just going in, blind buying anything you see is not the best strategy in the world. But another one for me too is just overpaying for hype. Like hype is the hobby now. It's like synonymous at this point in time where new rookie comes out, people go crazy overpaying for the hype of that particular rookie. And the next year they do something off the field or off the court, or they poorly perform, and you can lose money very, very quickly.
unless you're not in it for the money, you know.
Yeah.
Well, these things do hold value, right? So you do have to remember that.
We started this episode off with talking about buying the supplies, and one mistake I made, not getting back into it, but definitely when I was a kid, is storing my cards carelessly. And I'd say it's such a common mistake that people make, is just throwing cards in a bin, or just leaving them out on a desk, or leaving them out when you're eating food and spill coffee on them. And if you don't take care of your cards, and you could lose a lot of money if that card becomes extremely valuable sometime down the road.
Yeah, my cards in the attic were in just tubs, just loose all over the place. Not stacked. Some were stacked, but a mistake I made that I think could and should be avoided is just being a pack rat, is hanging on to stuff just because I felt like it was going to go up in value.
Yeah, I mean, one thing too to tailwind up that point is like it's called trading cards for a reason, and you can
I know.
trade cards too. You can go to card shows, you can trade it with people. There's
People forget
forums.
that, I feel like.
People definitely forget that. Use forums online. You can go to trade, right? If you don't like something, or maybe it's not valuable to you, one man's trash is another man's treasure. Like trade it for something that you do want. So it's always an option. So some regrets that I can laugh about now is like I went in heavily on quarterbacks like Mac Jones, Trevor Lawrence, Trey Lance. Like, I held cards for way too long and they went crazy. I know there's like some other examples where people bought cards and people do some off the field stuff, and whether they get into fights or some of the other stuff that might happen, legally troubles like that can cause a card to go way, way down, which is why kind of Pokemon's actually awesome, because I know that Charizard or Pikachu is not going to do anything crazy off the field, right? So
100%.
that's why I like investing in those cards a little bit better sometimes than some of the sports players that are out there.
When one of my favorite NBA players caught again with you know who I'm talking about, and the cards just plummeted, I was like, Charizard would never do that. So like, yeah,
Athletes get hurt too, right? This is a physical sport. So say they were to get hurt, Charizard's not getting hurt, Pikachu's
yep,
not getting hurt. Just bring in the Pokemon Center and they're all healed, right?
that's right, baby.
But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of mistakes we made. We've made all the mistakes. That's what we're trying to share with you, so that you guys can truly understand it.
I mean, I was a menace putting cards into penny sleeves for the longest time. You got to be careful because you nick the corners and it does damage. It depends on the card, but a soft or a nicked corner is going to severely impact like the chance for a card to gem. That's another term, Kev, that the people I think need to be aware of. So gem is the highest possible grade at any of the grading services. PSA, for example, 10, PSA 10, gem mint 10.
All terms, and hopefully you guys can learn from some of our lessons as well. Don't repeat the same mistakes that we did. Hopefully you guys can learn from us and our mistakes. So again, I hope that everyone was able to learn some of these here, right? We gave you some helpful terms. We gave you some reasons of why people are getting back into the hobby, or why to start if you haven't already. Some supplies that can definitely help you out. And if you have any questions, there's no bad questions that you can ask the card friends. We are, again, like we always say, we're all card friends here. So you can ask extreme beginner questions to us. Hit us up on all socials at the card friends. We're in all the usual places, and there is no judgment. This is the judgment-free zone. We're happy to answer all newcomer returner questions. Always here to help you guys. So just drop us a question and we'll answer it to the best of our ability. And if you guys have friends that are getting into cards, starting new, and maybe you learned something here, or you think they should hear this episode, be sure to share it with them, right? We'll try to do this some more in some future episodes. Maybe do a little bit of a mini series around this, and we'll post some of this information to our socials so you can share it and help friends out, right? But at the end of the day, like we always say, we're all card friends here, and we're here to help. So feel free to ask us any questions that you might have.
All right, everybody. Take care. See you on the next one.
We'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.
Peace.